Crit City quarantine race. We're back. So these are pretty much like my weeknight local crits this season. Just hop on Zwift, find a crit that looks good. Today we got 12 laps of the downtown Dolphin, which is the direction I like it because it goes up the climb. 12 laps I like because it's more than the 8 or 9, whatever those. The standard Zwift HQ races are so short, like 20 minutes. So I think this one ends up being closer to 30, which is, more in my wheelhouse. Already did my warm-up, ready to go, and hit it with 3 seconds. You heard me click that gear right at the 3-second mark. And I think I finally successfully didn't blow the whole shot. So the guy in the vegan cyclist kit blows by me. My goal here is to get in the front, but not on the front. So this is perfect. We got one guy who really took off, and I'm just going to stick his wheel, and then I'm going to do the minimum I have to do to stay here. These starts are always pretty quick, though, so you can see I'm getting rolled a little bit as we start coming into the corner. So we got 17 people in today, which is not a huge field, but also sometimes that makes it a little harder because there's not as many places to hide. It's a lot easier to get caught out. There's not as many people who are going to filter around you and fill all those gaps in. So you got to be really vigilant, and I'm pretty much going to try not to let myself fall below halfway. So yeah, I'm in 8th right now, and I'm taking stock of that. Yep, just flipping her around and seeing who's here. As a rule of thumb, no matter what the field size is, whether it's 17, whether it's 170, about half the field in a Zwift crit is going to get shelled. So it's not even want to, you have to stay in the top half. And for some reason, my video is looking pretty good today, other than every time we go up the cobbled climb. I don't know if it's like trying to render that cobbled surface or what it is. As I was playing the game, I didn't get those frame rate issues. It was just on the recording, so I don't know. I'm gonna have to play with that, but I do think I've got the frame rate looking a little bit better. Got the resolution looking a little bit better. It's just taking a lot of playing around with this setup on different computers and different recording software, but I'm making progress. If anybody has any suggestions, feel free to send them my way. I've also, my like green screen filter today is catching my shorts, so I am a floating torso. I'm gonna move that whole room around. What keeps happening is light coming in through the window. I'm doing most of these in the afternoon, like between 5 and 7. Light coming in through the window as we get into that sort of golden hour changes the colors of everything in my room, and so then things that were getting picked up are not, and things that were not getting picked up are. Kind of, you can see the Mapai logos getting picked up on my cap there. Yeah, so it looks like this is probably the back of this group, so 11th or 12th. Yeah, so we shelled 5 people on that first lap. I pretty much know that's going to keep happening. So I'm going to just try and keep myself in this sort of like 4 to 7, 7th wheel range. The name of the game today is conserving energy. I am going to do everything I can to play it as safe as possible because these races are really just blistering fast, and it's taken me a while to sort of figure out what the tactics are in especially these Zwift crits that are just kind of a random Zwift HQ race, not like a big event, because those can be a little bit different when you're talking about like the USA Cycling race league or something that's going to draw teams that are really in it, really organized. So these races, I've realized, are basically, it's Cat 5 racing with Cat 1 power. And what I mean by that is when you're Cat 5, no one has any teammates. And because of that, everyone is scared of being dropped. Everyone is scared of the brake going away. So the number of people who are willing to chase everything is very high. The difference is in a Cat 1, Cat 2 race, everyone has a team. So one guy gets off the front all of his teammates in the pack are pretty much going to stop chasing, or you would hope. So there's some rhyme or reason to it. So I'm trying to really not get caught out, because it is possible for some of these splits to stick just because other guys don't have it. And that's the other thing that can happen in Cat 5 racing, is you get one person that is inordinately strong that just rolls away from everybody, someone who's like, a pro triathlete who's doing their first road race. That guy will just roll off the front and he's not coming back. And generally when that happens in these Zwift races, it's either someone who is like a World Tour pro, which has been happening during quarantine. I mean, those guys are looking to race, looking to put efforts in, and I've gotten stuck in a couple breakaways with them. It's very hard, but anyone short of that really isn't going to be able to roll away from a field like this unless they're cheating, which, fingers crossed. It seems like this Zwift Beta anti-sandbagging, anti-cheating algorithm is doing its job. This is one of the first crits I've been in, first like Zwift HQ crits I've been in where we haven't had one or two guys that you pretty much just have to discount because they're clearly, have something calibrated wrong or whatever. I did one a few weeks ago with my teammate who, there was one guy who was cheating just like probably barely on the limit of what the algorithm would pick up, but he just consistently did like 460 watts for the whole thing. And looking at all of his, like, he wasn't on Zwift power, all the red flags were there. So speaking of red flags, my heart rate is kind of a red flag here, and I think this is just the heart rate monitor. I think it's not picking up because I could feel it beating out of my chest. I think I must have been doing 140, 150. So yeah, we had those little attacks a minute ago, little ones and twos going off the front, and I pretty much know that if it's a single guy going off the front, I don't need to personally chase that. What I need to do is get in the chase for that, meaning as we line up, I need to be in that line so that if the elastic snaps, I'm on the correct side of it. But I don't want to be the one doing that work. So like right here, see this guy is snapping to get up there, and I'm just going to keep that gap steady. Another thing I've tried to do is get a handle on my panic response in these situations. So you can see I'm still in the draft. My avatar is he's sitting up on the hoods, which means I'm drafting. So I'm looking on the right-hand side in the, I don't know, what is there a word for that? The little thing that tells you, who everybody is, and it's got their watts per kilo that they're doing at this moment right under their name. When the gap starts going out like that and you see the little close the gap icon, I've taken to whoever I'm trying to get on the wheel of, just glance at their watts per kilo, glance at my watts per kilo, and generally, like, if I'm doing, 5.5 to get back on and they're only doing 5.2 up there, I don't need to panic. I need to just hold what I've got, and I'll get up to them slowly, and I will not slingshot past them. Because in the past, I think my response has been, okay, the gap's going out, and then rather than hold 350 watts for 5 seconds, I'll do, 500 or something, just like full panic mode. And when I panic, it's easy to get going too fast and slingshot around them, and then you're in the wind, and then your choices there are to hold where you've got it and wait for somebody to come over the top, which you're probably going too hard, or to back off, and then when someone comes around you, you're going to not slot into their draft. And this is something that's a little bit easier to feel outside. When someone goes past you and you get in their draft, you kind of kick a little bit to match your speed to their speed. It's a little harder to find that on Zwift, so you have to be really aware of like how hard someone is coming past you, how fast they're going. So let's see who's in this group now. Yeah, it looks like we've split it even more, and we're doing a pretty hard pace up this climb every time. Not unmanageable, but it's always hard. And the hard thing for me is we come around this corner And then if you don't keep it hard, pretty much like to the next turn, you're gonna get gapped. Like this guy's trying to gap me right now, but it looks like I'm still, yep, I'm just barely in there. And this is it. This is the close the gap thing. I'm just gonna keep my watts per kilo steady, and I'm still in the draft. As long as you see that close the gap icon, you're still in the draft. So I'm not wasting anything here. And I'm just gonna shut that down slowly. And when I get on the wheel, I'm just gonna stay there. And watching the pros race Redlands on this circuit, really saw a lot of people using this little roller coaster section, this little up and down section. I think if you're not watching the grade over on the right, you don't realize how steep up and down that is briefly. Yep. And as these guys start to kind of roll away, I look behind me to see if anyone's going to jump in that gap, and realize I probably need to hold this gap steady because no one was really coming. It was super strung out there. Again, just trying to, I'm doing 400 watts, and I pretty much know if I'm doing 400, unless these guys are just going ballistic full sprint, they're not rolling away from me. So again, we got this little attack off the front. We got a lot of people, and this guy's used the burrito, so he's undraftable. I've used my drafting boost so I can get a little something. And yeah, we're just slowly pulling these back, and you sort of got to recognize the trend as well. And the trend here is we've got individuals attacking, and then everyone sort of speeds up, and we line up single file and bring them back. And knowing that, I pretty much know that I don't need to be the one to do that pulling. When someone goes, I don't need to be on the absolute pointy end. I just need to be up there. Because as you'll see, there are people coming off the back. And if you're hanging out at the back and you are behind one of those people who, you know, this surge is one too many for them, you're going to get caught with a big gap in front of you, and having to close that down could be it for you. It's certainly not the most efficient way to ride. Yeah, so the light is coming in, and my green screen is going nuts here. You can kind of see all that there. Yeah, I'm gonna get that straightened out. I'm gonna move that whole room around. I'm gonna rearrange the pain cave. I did get a new fan, and really helped this race, helped me stay cool. I never felt uncomfortable. So yeah, once again, Grupo Compacto neutralized that attack, and that's gonna be the order of the day. I think we got a lot of strong guys in here who all feel pretty motivated. You can kind of hear my music here. I was trying to see what I was listening to. I don't know. I've got a weird, I'll say eclectic race playlist. I think you could probably hear a little bit of Life is What You Make It by Talk Talk at the top of this video. Yeah, I'm trying some other things with the audio too, like leaving the trainer audio in there, but putting a little bit of a filter on it so it's not so loud. I think that it kind of hits harder when you can hear the gears thonk and hear the flywheel spin up, especially for sprints and stuff. So I'm really praying for an arrow here. My basic strategy on the power-ups this time is to all these, so I got a drafting power-up, which makes it easier to draft for whatever it is, 30 seconds, I think. I'm going to use all these power-ups to conserve energy until I get an arrow power-up. Because really, as a non-sprinter, having an arrow power-up is the only way I'm going to win a straight-up bunch sprint. I would have to have an arrow power-up and use it at the perfect time. So I think this is the lap where I think maybe I should try and find a downhill to use it, because if you use the arrow power up makes your drafting more powerful, and on a downhill you're already drafting a lot, so you know it's possible to get real rest, like under 200 watts rest, if you're using the drafting power up and you're on a downhill. I think what I do here actually is hit it right at the top of this climb. Yeah, so we're on the cobbled climb, like 5%, doing 400 watts. And this is where a lot of people were trying to stretch it out and trying to put the hurt on because they know everyone's a little gassed from the climb, and then this is where you can sort of stretch it out. So yeah, I just hit the drafting boost right at the top, and that lets me sort of reset after that hard effort. Yeah, so I'm sitting in at 235, which without the drafting boost might be, more like on the high end of my sweet spot zone, which is really hard. I don't know if you've ever done one of those like trainer road workouts where you go way over your threshold and then you just have to hold the sweet spot for a while. But those are brutal. It makes that zone much harder because your legs are already loaded up with that lactate. So as we come through the race, I sort of get the rhythm of these down a little bit better, and I start letting off before those downhills and then pushing a little harder up those uphills. And that's something I got from watching that Redlands Classic. It might have been Corey Williams from Legion. Someone who's a sort of known quantity in the Zwift world was doing a super tuck down some of those just for a second, just completely letting off the pedals, and you would see their avatar do the super tuck, which is really, I guess it's a kind of dicey move because you could get rolled if you do it wrong. Someone could really slingshot past you. But if you do it right, I mean, you could get a little bit of complete coasting, which, if you're a crit rider, if you're a real crit racer, I think the mark of a good crit racer is the amount of time spent at 0 watts and you stay in the group. It's totally possible for a good crit racer to have a really high normalized power and a really low average power because of a lot of time spent at 0, because they're using the corners to their advantage, just taking every little opportunity like that to maintain speed via coasting rather than braking and putting their accelerations down in the right place. If you think about it, like on a crit course, you come out of a corner and then say you have like a quarter-mile stretch. If you punch really hard at the beginning of that quarter mile, get up to whatever, 27 miles an hour, and then you let your power back down, it's easier to hold that speed once you have it than it is to gradually build that speed, especially when you're in someone's draft. So a really good crit racer will be able to come through some of those corners completely coasting and then just kind of one little pop of effort. That's why you see that spiky power, which, this is kind of different because the corners don't have the same mechanics. So this guy's super strong. He's going off the front right here, and he's got the disc wheel. He's got like the most aero wheel setup in the game. I don't know what frame he's running, but you can tell he's serious. I forget what you have to do to get that disc, but you got to be pretty high level in the game. So again, I'm not going to be the one to chase him, but I'm also not going to let that group get away. So I'm just trying to get up toward the pointy end and then draft. And the chase is on here. I'm not that worried about getting to him because if I'm doing 320 watts to sit in, he doesn't have it. Someone in the chat realizing that they're about to get lapped. And this is a fast race. I mean, even like looking at the Zwift power beforehand, even the guys who are getting dropped and getting lapped have over 4 watt a kilo, like 4.5 watt per kilo FTPs. So there's really no one screwing around in these A grade races, especially since quarantine. The quality of these fields has gone up so high. It's kind of amazing. And yeah, once again, we're Grupo Compacto. That guy in the pink kit really wanted to shut that one down. Same guy goes again, which, like, respect the hustle, but not a great idea, my man. This is where it would have helped him to have a teammate, because he could have sat in and his teammate could have countered. But he just went all out. I mean, I understand the idea. It's still a little early, too, though. We've got 4 more laps. That would be a pretty heavy lift. You can see he's got a couple seconds. I guess he's got 4 seconds looking at the graph up there. Again, I'm trying to just smooth this out. Stay in that draft. Don't panic. And yeah, I'm back on. I'm good. It looks like everybody really slowed down, so I am going to roll through here and keep the speed going, and then I'm going to kick a little bit up this, which, God, frame rate issues. Don't know. Again, I got to figure that out because this is one of the most crucial sections of the course. I guess it's a lot of people on the sides to render there, and then that texture. It also kind of bounces you around, so there's an effect as you go up that in Zwift that's kind of like giving you the sense of the cobbles are jostling you. That might also be doing something. Uh, yeah, so I did roll through there to keep the speed high, but again, I'm not going to be out here on the flats doing all the work. Um, that dude has really put some time. He's out there though. You can see the dot on the map in the top right. He's already turning. We're not even there yet. But again, I'm not worried about it because this group is so motivated. Everybody wants it. Everybody wants to chase everything. Guy in front of me just hit his arrow. I am kind of thinking here, like, okay, we might have split it down to 4 or 5 here, but the invisible man has come back in and he's kind of saved that guy in the alien kit by popping into that space. And I guess we're going to find out what the gap is looking like now. I think we pick up some lap traffic here, and then they sit in with us, which does make it a little messy. I really don't know. Like, in a real crit, they would start pulling these people who are getting lapped. I don't know if I support that for a Zwift race or not, but it can get kind of messy. And you saw it in the virtual Redlands crit. Some of the guys were getting lapped and sitting back in and working for teammates and stuff, which I don't know if that's super kosher. That's maybe not great. But at the same time, like the guy in the 7-Eleven kit, I know he was lap traffic. I do understand, like, this is just Zwift. We're not racing for money or anything. So if these guys want to stay out here and just get an effort for the full time, maybe let them. I don't know. I got mixed feelings on that. So yeah, no cheaters in this race, though. Again, talking about the Zwift algorithm, the fact that we haven't had anyone fly off the front, holding 600 watts for 20 minutes or whatever, really shows that maybe the algorithm is just working in a preventative way, which is basically like the people who know they're cheating are going to skip these races where it's been kicked in. However it's working, I'm up for it. It's making this race a lot more fun. It feels like we're all kind of on a similar level here, and the attacks are flying, the tactics are going. Speaking of tactics, watching that Redlands race, realizing that one of the tactics that may be really different on Zwift is just because of the physics, you're not going to get as many solo breakaways that really stick for a long distance because the whole pack goes so fast on Zwift, and the way that people rotate through is kind of different, so you can't do the thing where like your teammates get up near the front and every time someone will let them pull, they kind of set a false tempo. Like, that really doesn't happen. If you're trying to set a false tempo, you automatically get shuffled to the back. And so the bigger the pack is, it really only takes a few people who are willing to chase to pull everyone along, and they don't have to be quite as cognizant about the fact that they're doing it. It's just, if you put out those watts, you filter to the front, whereas in a real race with a big peloton, you have to really be trying to get to the front. You have to be looking for every little opportunity to move up. And because those mechanics are different, you get kind of a different result. So I've noticed in the Redlands crit the move that the Ceres Pros Closet team was doing, which they are like an esports team but comprised of a lot of really strong riders. So they really have their Zwift specific tactics dialed. One thing they were doing was attacking as a team, basically. So they would all get toward the front and then all put in a big surge at the same time. And you wouldn't do that in a real race because everyone in the whole peloton would cover it. No one's ever going to let a lot of teammates go away at the same time. But really what they were trying to do was not to get away, they were just trying to split the field so that rather than racing, 120 people, they were in there with 40 or 50. And the same mechanic that causes whoever wants to pull will cause whoever is really trying to save it to get filtered out the back. And it really only takes a few of those people who get caught sleeping, and they're sort of wondering. I think maybe we're in early days of like organized Zwift racing, so this might get harder to do. I don't know, but especially the way the pros closet does it, they go at a weird time. I'll say they'll just kind of choose a time, and it's like, maybe it's 1/4 of the way into the race, so it's not right off the line, but it's also not a place with a ton of strategic value, and they just push the pace all at the same time. And I think people are wondering, like, why is it going so fast right now? Because when you hit the base of a big climb, you sort of expect to do an effort. In a Zwift race at the start, you expect to do a big effort. Last 2 laps, you expect to do a big effort. But they're sort of catching some people sleeping and just splitting the group down. And they're doing that as a team. Oh, here goes a flyer. Different guy this time. This is actually perfect for me, though. As long as these guys are taking these little individual flyers and I can just continually shuffle myself up into 3rd or 4th wheel, that's really exactly where I want to be. But yeah, so the Ceres Pros Closet tactic of having the whole team, I won't even say attack, but just push the pace. When your whole team knows that you're doing that and you do it simultaneously, all of your team has made that move also. So then you have, all 5 of your guys are there, and some other teams might have had a few guys hanging out at the back, and oh no, invisibility. So I'm praying for an arrow power up here. I don't know if I sweated onto my companion app or what happened, but I thought I had an arrow earlier that I was holding on to, and this is me just now realizing I no longer have an arrow power up, so that's gonna make things hard. I'm just praying that on this next lap I'm gonna get one. We're 2 to go here. We're on lap 11 out of 12. Things are getting serious. Times are getting dire. So coming into the climb on this lap, I'm gonna make sure that I don't get caught out, because that is really where someone could get a gap, and even if I do bring that gap back, it'll hurt me for the sprint. So I'm gonna try to ride, even more so than the rest of the day, very efficiently here. You can see I keep slotting into 2nd wheel and then just doing the minimum I have to do to stay there. Gonna go ahead and kick it up a little here, hit this climb hard, but again, not hard enough to go just 2nd wheel and then stay there. And that's sort of my goal. I mean, you're always gonna have people rolling around you and stuff, but yep, still kind of getting over a 2nd wheel and then just stay there. People are always gonna be filtering around, but if you just keep that goal in mind of find a wheel and stay there and don't let yourself get too far back, you can ride a lot smoother and not have to surge, not have to panic so much. So again, this guy's trying to go, and I'm not hitting the panic stations. I'm just keeping it pretty steady, keeping it pretty on the pace. And my hope here is that this guy who's on the front is going to keep going super hard and just split it down to 3, because for me, a bunch sprint among everybody is maybe not great, but to sprint from a small group, like a group of 3, that's sort of my wheelhouse, especially when someone else has made that last lap hard, so then you can sort of count that person out. And bold move from this dude, trying to go with a little bit more than 1 to go. He's really putting his chips on the table. So I am checking the little counter on the side here to watch what his watts per kilo are, and I think, yeah, he's only doing 4.9 here. So I know that for me, 4.9 would not get me anywhere. So again, just don't panic. That's trying not to panic, unless if I looked over and he was consistently holding, red numbers like 8 watts a kilo and above or something. If he was doing that kind of work, I would probably need to jump up there to him, because he's maybe not coming back. And that's a decision that you have to make sooner than later, because once he gets that gap, if he's really going across to it is going to get harder with every second that you wait. So vigilant but not panicking. That's the plan here. And I did get that arrow boost. You can see, I think I maybe even said something when that came through. So now spirits are high. I feel like I'm in a good spot here. I got the arrow boost. I'm not feeling too fatigued. I feel like I've been riding really comfortable, and I'm gonna hit it as hard as I can up this climb. I'm gonna try to split it here. This is generally my move, is try and split it on the climb. And I think I maybe came from too far back, and I spent the first little kick there filtering through the group and kind of getting stuck in drafts. So check up, and everybody's kind of still there or thereabouts. So I won't call that a wasted effort, but what I'm not going to do is go all in from this point. It's about a minute from here to the line. So what I'm going to do is, I won't say let everyone come past me because I was still doing 380 watts there, 400 watts. What I'm going to do is, as people come past me, I'm going to filter back into this draft. Make sure I stay with this group, because hopefully the effort I put in has put a few people on the back foot and people are chasing. And I'm going to go right at 0.2 miles to go. I'm going to hit this arrow, all in. I've learned on this course I got to sprint sooner than you think you'd want to. Sprinting before this U-turn is always the move, and that guy went even earlier than I did. He kind of caught me a little bit. I think I could have gotten there with, I don't know, maybe with 50 more yards. I would have still been in second, but that guy from the WC Giant team would have probably got me. But yeah, second place, drumming along to something. Super happy with that. Taking my own advice. Good result, good race. Not a fluke, definitely very intentional. Oh, and I got the polka dot jersey there. I guess I had the fastest time up the climb from the group on that last one. So good race. Great weeknight crit.